all I cared about was winning. All I cared about, and winning was in the eyes of like a teenage girl or a middle-aged woman, who wanted to play one of our games. And they weren't going to read this. They're not reading the Wall Street Journal. I hired a PR firm to keep us out of the press. And when we were in the press, to dampen down the story. Because we had figured something out with user pay, and I didn't want to like go announce it to the world. And we were just trying to win as many sprints as we could before inviting a lot of competition and venture. And we were buying a company every month. A lot of the companies we bought, no one else was bidding on them.
You bought the company that became Farmville, right?
Well, not really. The real story is that I couldn't get anyone in Zynga to build Farmville because they thought it wasn't cool. They wanted to build like Coasterville, Cafe World, and nobody in video gaming wanted to make a farm simulation game. There was nothing less cool.
Why did you want to make it?
I wasn't from video gaming. I had a farm fantasy. I wanted to create Pincus Valley Ranch and, have our vegetables served at Chez Panisse, So I had that fantasy, and I have 4 sisters, and I feel like I really connect with middle-aged women. I'm like, I don't want Twitch, fast-moving games. I want something I don't have to pay any attention to. I don't have to pay any attention to a farm, I wanted that game, and I thought that would be the game that could appeal to anyone in the world because nobody needed instructions on how to play. Bing won't admit it, but he tried to convince me not to build it, even from a business standpoint. He was like, farm simulations never do well, Mark. And I finally bought this little failed Flash gaming company because they had 4 Flash engineers. And then I put them and like 4 or 5 other people in an alcove outside my office and checked in with them every day. And we built Farmville together in 6 weeks.
Did it come out the gate hot? What was day 1, day 2?
We were going to buy this company that made Farm Town, and the guy was, to be honest, kind of a jerk, and he had the right to be a jerk. He was winning. I think he doubled the price he wanted from like 40 million to 80 million, and he had the right, but we were building our own version, and we took out some of the things we didn't like in his game. So ours was not proven better new, it was proven better less. So our crops were better than his, our art and math were better, and we had more polish, but that was it. And we took out the stranger danger part. He had ways to meet other community members, and we just thought our users didn't want that. So we turned it on. I said, on a Friday, I had this tough call with him. I said, I don't think this is going to work. We're not going to buy you. And our team was like, Mark, this is ready to go. And so then on Sunday, we turned on Farmville, and it was one of those lightning in a bottle things that for some reason, so many things with Zynga just worked, and which isn't great to hear, because how do you repeat that? But we turned on Farmville, and I think it did like 171,000 installs the first day with no marketing. It was just viral. It just was viral. And we were doing like 1 million installs a day by the end of the first week with no marketing. And, we passed Farm Town within like 3 or 4 weeks. They were at like 4 million DAUs.
What was the peak, the absolute peak of Farmville? What was it doing?
I think it peaked at like 30 or 32 million DAUs. And at its peak, I think like 15 or 20% of people on Facebook were using it or had used it.
And what did it make in terms of revenue at that game?
Farmville 2 came out with a lot more lessons and mechanics and made more revenues. I know Farmville 2 did over $1 billion in revenues. Now, no one at that time thought a video game, definitely not a casual video game, could do over $1 billion in revenues. And I remember trying to explain that to Fidelity. I'm like, that's going to be a normal thing. Like 3 million a day, baby. That's going to be the new benchmark for a good game. But you had a question I really liked that was like the beginning of this whole thread. So I hired this PR firm because I said, I don't want to have my fur coat moment. I don't want to be on the cover of Fortune. And the fur coat moment came from that movie American Gangster.
Yeah.
When he's in the front row at the boxing match in the fur coat, he's on the front page of the New York Times, and everything goes downhill from there. Like, I don't want to be on the front page of anything.
And the police are like, this young black guy wearing a fur coat in the front row, he must be something.
Yeah.
What's his situation?
I was the equivalent of that. This 41-year-old retired guy that's not supposed to be doing anything important. That's when people were writing articles saying, can you back a founder under, over 30 in consumer? And so I just didn't fit the narrative. I was a counterfactual, and consumer wasn't supposed to be working. And so our financial performance was a trade secret. I wouldn't tell investors. I said, I'm going to tell you a price. You decide if you want to invest. Afterwards, I'll show you our financials. And if you don't like it, you can get out. But if they're not better than you think, which obviously made people even want to invest more when you say that,
Wait, what was your first 5 years revenue and profit?
I mean, we went public. We were forced to go public after 4 years. I mean, we had over $1 billion in cash on our balance sheet when we went public. We had never spent a dollar that we raised in capital I didn't know we wouldn't spend it, but, and I think that the year before we went public, I think we did like $450 million in free cash flow.
Oh my gosh. So in year 3, you're doing $450 million in free cash flow. Is that what you just said?
That might have been year 4. Yeah. I mean, we started in mid-July of 2007. So 2007 wasn't like a full year. We did like maybe $1.5 million in 2007.
Of cash flow or revenue?
Revenue. I mean, we were cash flowing. Maybe I did more than that revenue, because by October, November, we were making like $200,000 a month in cash flow. In 2008, we did like $38 million in revenues, and we probably made like, I don't know, 12 or 15 million in cash flow. But we were putting all that money, we were putting it into big data and then data centers, and then we were raising more and more money because I didn't want to ever slow down. But my point is, I let our story be told by our competitors and by press I didn't talk to. And I'm kind of nuanced, and Zynga was nuanced. And so I let the story go out that we were making all our money from advertising, but it was really user pay. And I was fine with that. I didn't want to say, no, you're wrong. And then Michael Arrington wrote for TechCrunch a whole series called Scamville. They said they must be making all their money from these really scammy ads they're showing. And they were no different than the ads on Google, but we also were not, all of our money was user pay. And I didn't want to come out and say, no, you idiot, we're making money from our whales, And then Arrington, who I'm friends with, I'm an investor in his fund now, he used Cityville. He played Cityville. He spent $550 in the game. And then he said, I'm so sorry, I was wrong. I get it why adults would spend money in your games now. Because remember, there was no in-app purchase yet. And so all of the adults were like, there's no way adults are paying money for art. But we had, a nurse in Indiana spending a couple $1,000s a month in Farmville, and this was her hobby. And maybe her husband was spending more than that, to go fishing and skiing and hunting. This was her hobby. And so we reframe this as we are helping to nurture a hobby somebody has, and this is a small amount to spend on a hobby, whereas, for a video game, it was a lot.
Right.
And I did not do myself any favors. I did not go on press tours. I didn't talk to investors. I said, I'm going to be selfish to our users and our employees. I'm not going to talk to anybody else ever. My kids, my players, my employees. And so everyone else told the story, and it was, and we fired a lot of people, and they were out telling our story because I had a meritocracy, a forced curve. We forced you to rate 10% of your team as a low performer every quarter. And if you were 2 quarters in a row, you're fired without question or exception.
Wow, you also have, I have one other theory for that, which is you have the Nickelback problem. Like if you ever heard of like a Veblen good, it's like a good where the demand goes up, the more the price goes up. There's like the Nickelback problem is basically everybody hates Nickelback and wants to shit on it. It's like it's a easy thing to look down on. You look cool for looking down on it, but yet somehow they'll sell millions of records. Nobody knows them, but somehow they're selling millions and millions of records. Like it was never cool to say, I love Farmville. I love to play Farmville, but somehow everybody's playing, but nobody wanted to say it was cool. So you had a little bit of a problem
there. The video game industry hated me. I was like the Darth Vader, so it didn't help either.
Exactly.
They said, you're not real games. we're never going to give you an award or invite you to GDC. I was like, that's cool. None of my users go to GDC.
There's this article, I'm looking at old articles of you. There's one from 2011, and it says, old Mark Pincus had a farm. And it's a picture of you. You look like a motorcycle a guy, like with your boots up, like overlooking the city. Like you had that swag that you talked about with Zuck. I mean, you had swag and you looked pretty cool, and you kind of had like a, F you, I'm going to win, like smile on your face. And I think that's kind of cool, but also that will rub some people the wrong way.
Yeah. And there was a great tweet that I love by this guy yesterday. He has some company called like Tiny Co or something.
Yeah, Andrew Wilkinson. That's our good
All
friend.
right. I loved his tweet, and he referenced the courage to be disliked, and he said it was a huge turning point for him when he stopped trying to be liked, and he stopped trying to be like Warren Buffett and worry about his reputation, basically his resume. I'm like, yes, that's my career, and that's what I advise people. I'm like, burn your resume. Don't look for respect from your peers. I say if you're truly ambitious, do not look for respect from the people around you, because you will not get it if you're doing things differently than them, because they don't like that. I mean, you're supposed to like stick to this one mold, and if you do something different, just like you were saying, Sam, and it works, it makes them question themselves. So they kind of don't want to see you succeed. Do it. It's like, but I paid all these dues, and I don't want you to make it without paying the same dues, because I'm in a job I hate. You're supposed to be in a job you hate, or else I didn't have to do this.